Good morning, Galaxians. Welcome to another live edition from the Batcave of the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan. I pointed to that graphic in the last episode, but the graphic wasn't there, and I felt like a fool. These things happen. I talked about in that episode, I think, another mistake I had made. So nobody's perfect. These things happen. But welcome to the show. Hope everybody's having a good week. I've got, I think, 12 things to ship today. I talked about last month that I was going to participate in eBay's special first week of June 15% off coupon deal. If you're following me over on Instagram at Galaxy CDs Rocks, I posted yesterday that was not off to a particularly rousing start. I had 6 sales yesterday on that program. Today we've got, I think, 11 of the 12. So it's a little better, but it's still well off what my normal cadence would be if I was running my normal like promotional discounts. So far, 2 days into this, color me unimpressed with the reach of that program. We'll see as we get through the rest of the week and into the weekend if it picks up. But so far, not a lot to write home about, and really no big sales. I was kind of hoping that maybe that coupon would catch some people's attention on some of the higher dollar stuff that is being watched. That has not worked out. So let's get in here into the chat and say a few good mornings before we get started with the packing and shipping. Callie Debs, welcome. Good to see you. Mel Flips It, hello. Get that out of here. Lord Jake Ryan, always a pleasure to see you. Big Dre, good morning. Den Decor Depot, sales are flowing like the Great Miami River. Certainly not at flood stage. It is what it is. Everything's better than nothing. Meaty Picker, good morning. In the middle of a 3-hour training session. Ooh, I don't miss those. Although you could argue that some of these are training sessions. For my computer, I'm a little slow here today. Got another one here. Oh, goodness. I'm going to have to invest in another computer, but I'm not going to be able to do that in the immediate future. Again, if you follow me on Instagram, and I talked about it a little bit in the process of buying out that big lot of books. I brought home the last batch of those yesterday. Ended up being 11 SUV trips to get it done. Just a little over 5,500 books total, all in. Spent a little over $2,500 on them. So pretty big cash outlay. You may recall several summers ago, I did the 15,000 book lot that I talk about all the time. I was only into those for about 4 cents a piece on average. And I did that buy over the course of an entire summer, a couple of loads at a time. So I was able to like sell some of those things while I was going to pick more of them up. This was kind of a big all upfront investment, a little over $2,500. So I'm a little tapped out at the moment. So is my garage. Big Dre says, JP Morgan has updated its outlook for eBay by increasing the stock's price target from 60 to 66 while maintaining a neutral rating. The things that they've been doing are probably good for the stock price, but not necessarily so good for sellers. So we'll see how that all plays out. Black Cat Flips, good morning. Good deal. Enjoy the day off. I am actually taking the second half of the day off, doing these pickups of all these books. I've put in a couple of 12-hour days over the last week. So once I wrap this live up and drop these packages off at the post office, I'm going to take a nice long bike ride and enjoy a lovely Southwestern Ohio afternoon. Chuck Witt, good to see you. Den Decor says we're doing okay. About the sneak peek at a church sale. I was told I could shop today. The early bird might get the worm, but networker gets choice. Yeah, and that was the deal on this pickup. I don't know if I talked about it all that much, but I had left my card with another estate company who ultimately never called me on that deal. But this other company, apparently they're friends, and she had asked him if he knew anybody that would buy a big quantity of books, and he referred me, and here we are a week later with 5,500 books. in the garage. I actually talked to my guy at the warehouse. He's building out another roughly 300 square feet for me. I've ordered some more shelves because with all this big influx of inventory, I am going to need a little more space. So good deal, about 300 square feet for another 75 bucks. I'll take it. So not too shabby, and we'll get to moving in that space here in the next week or so. So let's get into some of the stuff that's sold. Again, if there's something particular you'd like to discuss, let me know in the chat, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. This first one is one of those Heritage Press books I've been talking about. This is the Quran. I think it's Selected Surahs, if I remember correctly. Real nice looking book that includes the Sandglass newsletter. Heritage Press. This is in really nice shape. In its slipcase, this actually sold on Mercari. Yay, Mercari. For $14 on an offer. I think I had it listed for $16. I got an offer last night of $14, which I went ahead and took because I'm into this for 50 cents. These ones in the slip cases, I will usually put, again, in bubble wrap. So this has already got a little bit of corner damage on the slip cover. So we'll try to do a little extra protection. Try to be conscious of that tape gun, not deafening anyone. How is everyone's week going? Or are you making sales? Is anyone else participating in that eBay program? Just curious. I know Mel mentioned in a comment that she had done a similar program last year that had not really been all that successful. The rest of these will be from eBay. This is The Ebb and Flow of Life at St. Bede Abbey in Peru, Illinois, Volume 4 from 1917. Hardcover, this sold for $15.99. Cool old book. In reasonably good shape for that age. Binding's pretty solid. It's got a little bit of like discoloration there on the end. But overall, this is pretty nice. I'll wrap this one up and then I'll get back into the chat because I see there are a few comments to address. I see Poshmark made an announcement this morning of some sort. I haven't had a chance to look into it, but that is certainly something we'll be covering in next week's primary episode. There's always something going on. Let's see what we got here. Big Dre says, sold a shirt, perfume, chessboard, a pack of sports cards for a total of $70 plus shipping. There you go. A little bit of everything in there. Did not do eBay's program, but I did put a markdown sale up. I'll be doing one. I'll actually probably prepare it late this week or maybe on Saturday to start as soon as eBay's promotion ends. I don't want to like double stack. I have started because it's been so slow. Everybody that's qualified for a send offer, because those can stack, I've been sending out an additional 5% off offer. I'd said I wasn't going to do that. I wanted to see what the eBay program did. I already know what it's doing, which is not enough, especially having just spent $2,500 on books. So I've been sending out some 5% offers where people can stack that discount along with the coupon. So far, I've only had 2 takers on that. So we'll see. Big Dre just sent out some offers as well. Black Cat Flips May ended up well overall. June starting out slow. Had more sales on Etsy lately, which is a happy surprise. Good. Yesterday was really interesting. So I had 6 sales on eBay that netted me about $55 in profit after everything and the fees. So a lot of really low value stuff. And I had 1 sale on Etsy that netted me almost $60. It was like a $74 book that sold over on Etsy. So I will take that. Is your new dog enjoying feasting on the crop of cicadas? I had to cut my morning hike in half due to an airborne attack of them. I am just outside the fringe. We had the last brood, whatever that was, like 4 years ago. And I'm right on the fringe. There are some people like 10 miles from me that are having cicadas. I have not had any in my area, so I'm not having to deal with that, fortunately. But yes, I've seen on Facebook some of my friends talking about having a mess. Recommerce Dave, welcome. Black Cat Flip says I have a 10% coupon running, which seems to help. When I mentioned the last time that eBay had slowed, it was because my coupon expired. Yeah, that's one of the things I talk about all the time is I constantly try to have something going on, particularly on that older inventory, to try to just generate some activity. I feel a little conflicted because I talk about not wanting to like sell stuff for huge losses on whatnot. But I don't mind to take, 30, 40, 50% off an older item on eBay to try to move it. I suppose in theory, I should start pulling some of that stuff and taking it over to whatnot. I'm just not feeling it right now. I need another session with Max, Common Ground Finds, to get me like motivated to get back on there because I'm just really not feeling it at the moment. This next one, Catcher in the Rye. Woo. The AI is always trying to track my face when I block it with the book. It jumps. Sold this for $10. 1951 Book of the Month Club edition. First editions of these can bring really, really good money. This one was a little rough and is not a first printing. So I listed it for $10. This is from the big 5,500 book lot. So I was into this for about 46 cents. Sold for $9.99 plus shipping within probably an hour of listing. I have sold some of these previously for quite a bit more than this, but this one was not in that great a shape. And as I talk about, I try to price not only to the market, but to the condition of the item that I've got. And when I looked at sold comps, there were a bunch of them kind of like this that were selling in that like $8 to $11 range. So I thought $9.99 made sense, and so did a buyer. And then the Cordipa says 3 sales today, 15 yesterday. So you had a much better day yesterday than I did, ranging from VHS to RC cars, bathroom vent fan. There you go. There's a random. Etsy's been steady with underserved niche, 4 orders there, and a Foster's Beer Neon on Facebook Marketplace. Nice eclectic mix of stuff. I clearly will not be sourcing anytime soon. So my stuff is going to be really book heavy for the next, I figure it'll take me at least 4 months, if not longer, to get through all these books. So I am going to be busy. I've already done 90 listings since Monday, hence the 12-hour days. So in between picking all this stuff up, I've been really busy getting up new books. Average is $2.95 a day clear so far this month, which is a new high for us. That's awesome. Very, very nice. Usually reset a markdown sale coupled with a coupon every week, but I didn't last week or this week, and sales have been steady. Yeah, if you don't need to do that, if your business is good, by all means, don't. I wouldn't poke the bear. I do it solely for that really old inventory. Generally speaking, anything that's under a year, I'm not running on sale. I'll send out offers and I'll accept offers, but I don't do like big discounts on that, like 1 year and under. The current eBay sale notwithstanding, because all that stuff obviously qualifies. Very little. My vehicle is in the driveway. Because remember, over the last like month, I've made two other pretty significant buys. So one side, it's a two-car garage. One side was already essentially completely full of books, and the other side was where I was parking. Now the side that I normally parked in is about 75% full of books. I put some pictures on Instagram late last week, and that was less than half of those books. So it's almost out to the door. My goal is to have it all cleared out in time to park in there for the winter. uh, we'll see how that goes. Dendicor says getting 30 new listings per day. Been holding with that for 3 months. Yeah, my target has generally been to do 100 to 140 a week, somewhere in that range, depending on what's going on. I am actually going to ramp that up a bit because I have so much stuff now. I'm toying in the back of my head with trying to get to 200 a week. But that seems like a really big number, but somewhere between 150 and 200, I think, is what I'm going to shoot for to try to get through this big lot. It has been really surprisingly good stuff. A lot of times with these big buys, you end up with a lot of fluff, a lot of stuff that's just not worth duds, stuff that's not worth messing with. I have done, between the end of last week and the start of this week, I've probably listed 120 books out of that lot already, and I've probably pulled less than 15 that I did not elect to list. So it has been, so far at least, knock wood, it's been a really, really good lot. Miss Lachey, good morning, welcome. Always good to see you. A quick hello. Almost out of perfume, so I have to contact my supplier, pick some up. About an hour drive. Yeah, this book pickup was about 45 minutes each way. And like I talked about in the main episode on Monday, God bless the seller who did 5 SUV loads with me to bring those back. And by the end, they had essentially packed probably 90% of it. They were so thrilled, I guess, to have somebody that would buy all those books, that they were really super, super helpful. Very, very happy with that. Let's get to another one here. This is the last of these. I had 2 of these in the main episode on Monday. This is the last of, you can see my reflection there, the Jimmy Swaggart School of the Bible binders. This is the Holy Spirit from Genesis to Revelation. This sold for $22.99, I assume, plus the coupon. Interestingly, eBay doesn't give you any visibility into whether that sale used that coupon. I'm just assuming that everything is at this point. So that's kind of a problem. Yeah, as we talked about with that promotion, you're getting full price, I'm getting full price, I'm paying fees on the full price, and then in a month and a half or so, I'll get a bill for whatever all those coupons were worth. So this looks like a $22.99 sale. It may be 15% less than that, but still not a bad flip. I bought these for 50 cents as part of a bulk buy. They were in a tub. I wasn't really all that excited about them until I started looking at them, and they're 23, 24 bucks a piece. I've sold 8 or 10 of these. This was the last one. I wish I had some more of these. Definitely be on the lookout for any of the Jimmy Swaggart stuff. I talked about it already, I know, but there are all kinds of study Bibles. His Expositor's Study Bible commands really, really good money. So any of his stuff seems to be super strong. This is going to get bubble and then go in just a regular poly mailer because of its size. let's see here what we got. Almost out of perfume. We did that one. Here we go. Love my 8-foot bed truck. Yep, there you go. These were mostly like packed in like half cut off boxes and Rubbermaid totes without lids. So I'd have been a little worried about putting them in a pickup truck. I did toy with renting a U-Haul to just go get them all at once. But because of the way they were packing a few hours at a time, they would have some stuff ready to get out of the house. So there wasn't really a great way to do it all at once. So I did it over 4 or 5 days of pickups. Black Cat Flips don't understand the logic of eBay charging later for the sale discount. You would think they'd want their money back right away or not pay it out at all. The cynic in me goes back to the fact that they're collecting the fee, their transaction fee and their final value fee on the full amount. So it's an extra whatever. In my case, if it's a promoted sale, almost 20% of that 15%. So they're collecting that up front, and then they're going to collect the 15% back anyway. So I guess from their standpoint, it'll goose their sales short term. I don't know how they're reporting that on their accounting in terms of handling that discount. But obviously they're going to get all that money back anyway, plus the extra fees. So based on my first 2 days, it's probably not something I will do again, but we'll see what the rest of the week holds. Next up, the Great Ideas Today. This is a Britannica Great Book Series from 1992. Hardcovers. These were part of the big like 1,700 book lot that I picked up kind of over the winter. 50 cents a piece. I paid for all the books in that lot. This sold for $4.99, so not a huge sale, but $5 from 50 cents is not a terrible flip. And again, it's one of those just bread and butter items. In a normal week, you might do 8 or 10 of those a day. And that just keeps things flowing, keeps a little cash coming in. I've sold actually a bunch of these so far. There were probably, I don't know, 30 years worth of them in that pickup. And I've probably sold a dozen or 15. So Black Cat Flip says that makes sense. Had to be something in their favor. Yeah. There's no benefit necessarily to the seller on that. Big Dre says, I think I'll switch to Friday night through Sunday to activate markdown sales and coupons. Mel Flips it says, you tested hashtags. Does anyone use hashtags on any platform? I've heard Poshmark, fashion in particular, they were important. I'm wondering if this is outdated info in general. I'd be curious what the chat's opinion is. And if you're watching on Team Replay, what your thoughts are on hashtags. I still use them over on Instagram to not much effect. I'll post something over there. And even with 800 plus followers, a post will get 16 views. So I'm not convinced that hashtags have the power that they once had. All the sites continue to offer them. YouTube has a section for tags. Poshmark, Etsy has tags, a section for tags. So they all have it and suggest it, but I'm not sure how effective it is. I'd be very curious what everybody else's take is. I am no longer using them anywhere other than on Instagram. I don't put them on Mercari. I don't use them on Etsy. I did do some of that and some of the attributes on Etsy when I was doing print on demand, but for books, the couple of attributes they have don't really even apply. So I'm not using any of that on those sites, just the item specifics over on eBay. Black Cat Flip says, I'll use hashtags on Posh and Etsy when I think of good keywords that are not already in my title. And that's the key, I think, really. If you're trying to get something else to trigger search and you can't get it in your title, The hashtags, in theory, might be useful. I don't have any concrete scientific evidence one way or the other. Just anecdotally, it doesn't feel to me like they're very effective anymore. Mercari allows you to have tags as those eBay, but it's a separate area on the listing. I've tried hashtags in the description on eBay. The jury is out on whether it works or not. Yep. My personal feeling is that I try to get everything into my title that I think is super important. I'm not super pressed with words like vintage, antique, rare. Some of that is just personal bias. It's not how I search for things. So I'm doing my listings kind of based on my own search habits, which is probably a mistake. But that's kind of my feeling. I'm not searching for those kind of terms, so I don't use them. What's this next one here? This is an old paperback. The Wind at My Back by Pat O'Brien, a first printing Avon illustrated paperback. This sold for $7. Just a little, not even really in that great a shape. This was part of a big lot of books I was into for, I think, a quarter on these paperbacks. Pages pretty well tanned. The binding is a little rough. It does have some pictures in it. $7. You just never know. It has been here a long time. I can tell based on the inventory location where I went to pull this. This has probably been in my inventory for at least 3 years. Again, I assume it sold in the 15% off sale, but I probably made more money on it with that than I would have had I run my own discount, because this would have been probably in a 30% off section. So all right, let's see what we got here. Instagram only for hashtags. Didn't see the Mercari hashtag line anymore when I was listing some items on there the other day. I haven't even looked. It used to be, I think they only had like 3 spaces anyway. Like Etsy has like 13, which is a kind of a random number for hashtags, but Mercari I think had 3. But again, I've not used them. Big Dre says ended up winning one of the auctions, was bidding on last week. These Walkmans have gone up since I last bought one. They can get that old vintage electronic stuff, man. Old Walkman and Discman can be pretty cool. I had one year, this has been several years ago, the old, like the bright yellow Sony sports model that was theoretically waterproof and all that. I think it sold for like 80 or 90 bucks. So Recommerce Day says, find Instagram posts just full of ads. It seems to bury posts by the people I follow. Stories and reels have priority, but again, between every couple, there are 4 ads. Yeah, it is. Unless you like interact, and this was kind of true on Facebook as well, with a particular account, which seems to prompt it to come up to the kind of the top of your feed. There's so much unrelated stuff on Instagram. I rarely spend much time there. I post a few times a week, and I'll hop on a couple times a day and just scroll through like the first dozen or 15 that come up, and then I get back out, because it can be a real time suck. Like you can spend all day watching reels. And Operating on eBay says, how do you decide what kind of packaging for each book? Like the last paperback, you didn't wrap in bubble wrap, but you wrapped in paper and added a piece of cardboard. So bubble wrap generally I only use for like a more expensive book, or something that's going to go like that Jimmy Swaggart thing that was too big to go in the bubble mailers I keep on hand, and was just going in a regular poly mailer. Other than that, inexpensive books, anything under probably 50, 60 bucks, just gets the newsprint wrap and then goes in a bubble mailer. If it's 50, 60, 70 or higher, generally I'll paper wrap it, bubble wrap it, and then put it in a box rather than a bubble mailer. I feel like, again, at that price point, people expect a little bit better handling on those things. But this kind of relatively inexpensive stuff, a wrap, always a cardboard insert for a paperback to help keep it from getting flexed, because you see horror stories all the time from the post office, folding items to get them in the mailboxes. So that piece of cardboard will essentially prevent them from doing that. And I've even gotten that feedback from buyers that prevented it not only being folded but bent the other way. So that's kind of what I do. I know some people ship everything in boxes. Some people just ship everything in poly mailers they don't do anything else. So you can kind of do whatever you want. This setup is kind of a middle ground for me. It's not overkill, but it also doesn't cost me a fortune to do it this way. Big Dre says, my closet is full of them. I collect them and record music on them and listen to them while I drive. There you go. Old school. I think I've told this story before. That's how I knew when it was time to close my CD store back in 2011, 2012. When Spotify came to the US, I was like, man, you got literally millions of songs available for $10 a month that you can stream anywhere. Physical media just that didn't look like it had a hugely viable future. You've seen now, like, some smaller independent record stores have been able to make a go of it, but the total amount of physical media being sold is a fraction of what it was back in the day when I was doing it. So it is a different world. I haven't actually listened to a CD in forever. Den Decor Depot says, when it comes to shipping, I always ask myself, how would I want to receive this item? Yep. That is kind of my starting point. Like I just said, with even how I search, if I was going to search for this item, what are the things I would be looking for? And for me, it's like author, title, maybe publisher, maybe the year it was published. Words, again, like vintage and rare, and you see them misused all the time. For starters, somebody will have rare in their title and there's 50 listings showing. Well, clearly it's not rare. There's 50 of them like right next to yours. So I try to avoid all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I try to that extent, I guess, put myself in the other person's shoes. How would I want this? And we've talked about previously stuff I've gotten that was not packed particularly well, or a hat that came by media mail one time, that kind of stuff. You look at that and it just, I don't want to be that guy. So that's kind of the rule of thumb that I use. CDs are good when the power of the Wi-Fi goes out. Yep. True enough. I don't even have any. I think I might have one CD. It was from a local Cincinnati area band whose music was not on Spotify. So I kept the CD. The music is now available on Spotify, so I could probably afford to get rid of that. But I probably won't even look at it. So next up, another fairly inexpensive sale, $7.99, hardcover, The Seventh Cross, a novel by Anna Segers. This is another book club edition with the little insert. I always make a point to talk about these inserts if they're included. A lot of people like to collect these. Doesn't have a huge impact on the value of the book. Again, this is still just a $7.99 sale, but cost of goods sold 50 cents on this. Pretty clean, little wear on the cover, but not too bad. This is from probably the 1960s. And a little older than that, 1942. So probably don't need that big a one. 2006 Chevy has a CD player that still works. The last vehicle I had, the one that I talked about back in the fall last year that got totaled, still had a CD player in it. The one I replaced it with does not. So I'm out of luck. I need to find a Discman. Do you put the fact that there's an insert in your title? If I have enough room, again, my keys are author, title, maybe the publisher. If it's a book club edition, is it illustrated? Those are probably a little more important. But if there's still room in there for the title, I will put like BOMC insert included, just again so that it's caught in search. Because remember, on eBay, they don't search unless you tell it to. It doesn't look at your description, it just looks at the title. So I cram as much stuff in there as I can, and I will put that in there if there's room. Only use high MD players. I can record 8 hours of music on each mini disc. Yep. Record live off my cell phone or computer using an aux cable. That mini disc format was really, really cool. Surprised that it didn't actually take off, but it just never really got much traction. I don't know why, because it was a really great format. 2 more books, 2 old sci-fi novels, The Earth War and Of Godlike Power. These 2 sold for a total of $6.99. Just a couple of old pulp paperbacks. One from Belmont Books, one from Pyramid Books, both by Mac Reynolds. Obviously, at $6.99, these are worth $3 a piece or something like that individually. So I lotted them up into 2, ended up getting $7 out of them, probably 50 cents into the 2 of these. So not a bad flip. This is something else I'll usually do. If I'm shipping a couple of books or more that I'm like going to stack together, I'll counter stack them so that the spines are not all together. That just kind of helps keep the spines a little bit more intact. Or if you did them like this, it kind of puts the books a little bit out of whack, where this seems to help hold that spine together a little bit. Again, it'll get wrapped in a cardboard insert, but counter stacking them, I find, helps keep them a little bit safer as well. Those are books that probably would have sold for $1 on Whatnot if they had sold at all, based on what I was selling over there previously. Down to the last few here. Oh, let's see here. Running my second ever auction, and it closes tonight for an unbranded new old stock 1980s keyboard. First keyboard I auction sold is buy it now for $25 almost instantly. Good luck. You got any bids on it? Hope this goes much higher. I talk about it all the time. I have very few items that I put up at auction. I don't have any, I don't believe, right now. I've got 11,000 coming up on 500 listings and not a single active auction. I ran, I think, 6 last week, 2 of which sold. The other ones didn't even sell. So that format is really, really tough. Operani says, for your bread and butter sales, how do you price a book? What kind of net do you get after fees? Again, I just look at what the market is. So if they're selling for $6, $8, that's essentially where I'll price it, with the idea in mind that I'm charging for shipping. So if somebody's selling it for $8 free shipping, and I know it's going to cost $5 to ship it, maybe it's a $2.99, a $3.99. I'm being a little more aggressive with this last big lot. Normally kind of $4.99 has been my cutoff, but I am dipping a little bit below that right now because I got so many of these books and they're so cheap. Net after fees, I might make $1 on some of those. I don't feature them like in the what sold recaps, but they're not big money. But again, over the course of a year, I'm selling thousands of them, and it ends up being worth the time to do. You look at any one individual book and you say, hey, I made $1.02 on that. Is it really worth your time? But multiplied by the thousands of them that go out of here every day, it is for me. It's not something that everybody would do. I don't get super caught up in trying to maximize on those low price books. If they're selling like the Catcher in the Rye that we had earlier, I probably could have priced it at $12.99 or $14.99 and rode it out a little longer. But when I looked at the sold comps, the ones that looked like they were in the same kind of condition were in the $8 to $11 range. So I just split the difference, went right in the middle at $9.99 with a acceptable offer of $8, which would have left me kind of in the range, and it sold right away essentially for $10. Counter stacking is a good idea. Yeah, it just helps a little bit. If nothing else, keep the package size even, because if you've got 2, 3, 4, obviously the side that's bound ends up being a little bit thicker than the other side, and then you get all kind of cattywampus in the package, and just makes a little neater presentation when it gets where it's going. Appreciate that. This group is full of good tips and advice. I can't raise the price of my privately owned CDs or change how I can access them like Amazon did with the books. Power outage and traveling keeps mine close, says Kapow Eagle. And that is one thing to remember, like with all the streaming services, or if you're buying music on iTunes, the artists can rescind their catalogs from those services, and then you don't have access to them anymore. On iTunes, you didn't actually buy the song, you bought the right to listen to the song. So again, if the artist decides, you know what, I'm done with Apple, you just lose that stuff. So there is something to be said for physical media. With the advent of the new like ultra high quality streaming audio, the audio quality difference isn't quite what it used to be. When Spotify first came to the US, the difference between listening to a CD and streaming something on Spotify was night and day. But that with gapless playback and all the rest has kind of gone away. Just one bid, but about 12 watchers now. You feel pretty good when you get that many watchers. Could not find any comps or even what it was for, so I figured to try an auction. The fact the first one sold so fast is an encouraging sign. And that's a lot of times where I will go to auction. I'll find a book that there's nothing, there's no comps, there's no solds going back 3 years on product research, nothing listed on A-Books, nothing on Amazon, and you're kind of like, what do I even do with this? And I'll just kind of set like a minimum. I want to get at least $15 or $20 out of this book and throw it up at auction to see what happens. And sometimes they take off, and sometimes you end up relisting them again at regular price. Braid and slat sports cards do better at auction than buy it now. Graded and slabbed. Yeah. How many cards are you sending out to get graded? I know that can be a not only expensive, but time-consuming process. Den Decor Depot says, I've adjusted downward with a lot of things I'm listing. Feel a lot of some $10 items will sell more with the current tariff environment. Yep. And again, I'm not here to collect these things. I want to move them. I don't want to like get way less than I think an item should be worth, but I'm not necessarily trying to hold out for, you see these, I listed one earlier today where there are some sellers that are asking $80 and $100 for some of these books that are available on other sites for $15 or $20. Yes, I could put it on eBay and comp to those particular listings, but anybody who's really looking for that book that does like a Google search or knows about some of these other sites will find them for $12 or $15, and they're never going to buy that $60 or $80 book. So I priced mine at $14.99 or best offer, and we'll see what happens. But pricing where the market belongs is super important, and especially on the lower price stuff where a lot of times there's hundreds of competitors. Speaking of low price stuff, here's another one, a CD. Brandon, if you're still with us, The Day I Fell Down, Sweet to Be Strange. This is a new and sealed CD from 1998 on Samson Music. Never heard of these guys. This was part of the big, whatever it was, 8,000 plus CD lot. I'm into this for less than 4 cents. I think it sold for $6.99. $8.99. And I've sold one of these before. So again, random 1998 CD for $9. I don't wrap these, especially it's already in cellophane. I will put some cardboard So essentially what I do with these, I'll put cardboard on one side, and then the poly mailer, the bubble mailer, will fold over completely on the other side. So I've got 2 layers of bubbles on one side and the layer of bubbles and a piece of cardboard on the other. In 5+ years, I've had one instance where a jewel case got cracked. So that seems to be enough. Brandon says, I'm here. Love CDs. Doing another CD buy today. Don't know where I'm going to put it. Yeah, that's where I was on these books. It's not ideal to not have a place to park my car, but it was too good a buy to not take advantage of it, even though it was money I didn't really want to be spending, but very few get graded. That makes sense. Tell us about the Hot Wheels car collection. So I was with someone for a number of years, about a decade ago, and 2, at the time, like 3-year-old boys who were super into Hot Wheels. So we just, the 2 of them, they're twins, and I started collecting Hot Wheels. We'd go out and find some cool cars, and I just started collecting. So I ended up with these displays. I've got, I don't know, 500 or 600 Hot Wheels over there. The most expensive one I think is worth about $400. That was a gift from my brother. I think he found it on eBay, actually. Really cool car, but just was something fun to do with them. And every time they come over, still, because I still see them, even though we're not together anymore, which is awesome. They want to come down here and look at the cars, and they're constantly wanting to take one. So my collection's down probably 50 or 60 cars from what it was at one point, because they come over. But this initially was the playroom that I had built for them. So we had the Hot Wheels posters and displays, and I carpeted the basement here, and we'd come down here and make all these crazy Hot Wheel tracks and just run cars around. Their mom, of course, wanted nothing to do with Hot Wheels or racing cars. So this was kind of our little space, and I just left them up because it reminds me of them, and I like the Hot Wheels. But thanks for asking. Next up, another road atlas from 2021. So I guess they still make road atlases. This is from Kappa Map Group, 2021 large print North American road atlas. Part of a big buy I did. I think I got maybe a quarter in this. Sold for $12.34. I sent out an offer on this. I assume also probably plus the 15%. So it'll be a little bit less than that. But I've sold several physical atlases for in that kind of $9 to $15 range, which again, you wouldn't think, given the advent of smartphones with navigation and navigation built into cars, that people would want these, but I sell them all the time. I'm not sure what this is even going to fit in. It is a big book. I know it's too big for my primary bubble mailer, so we'll wrap this, then bubble wrap it, then I'll put some cardboard in it and probably send it out in just a regular poly mailer. I got my Amazon subscribe and save stuff yesterday, so I got all kinds of extra cardboard. Got a bunch of coffee and dog food and protein bars for when I cycle and all kinds of stuff. But it ended up, of course, with a bunch of boxes that I can cut down to use for stuff like this. Just a couple more here. Playroom, yes, absolutely. Lindy Moo, hello, welcome. In my niche, vintage rubber stamps, I have about 30 repeat buyers. I think they trust my pricing and will pay $50 plus quickly when I come up with the rare ones because I'm fair with the lower values. Yeah, and that's the other thing that I think a lot of times people don't think about is how you can build repeat business by being fair with your pricing and by, taking care when you do packaging and shipping. People do remember that kind of stuff. I've got tons of repeat buyers on old books because they know, when they see my listing, that it's going to be accurate, that it's going to have a lot of photos, and that the item they get is exactly going to match those photos. It's going to have a good description, so they know exactly what they're getting from me. And then it's going to be well packed to ship, so it arrives in that condition. And that kind of stuff matters to people, especially on unusual niche items. If you're just selling kind of everyday stuff, maybe not so much. But for this type of stuff, a buyer who likes old vintage books, or in your case, rubber stamps, once they've found a seller that they can trust, that they know they're going to get exactly what they ordered, which seems like a fairly low bar to cross, but you see stories all the time of people not getting what they thought they were getting. They'll come back over and over again, and then they are willing to pay a premium for those better items because they know they're going to get taken care of. So that's a really good point. Big Dre flipped Hot Wheels for a year. It's pretty cutthroat. Yeah, that the whole Hot Wheel market, like there are guys that like show up at Target or Walmart like every whatever it is Tuesday when the Hot Wheels shipments are going to drop, and they're ruthless to get whatever that week's drops are. It is absolutely insane. I was never quite that into it, but a lot of shady deals in the back before they're put on the floor. Ended up finding a lot of treasure hunts and sold them on eBay and flea markets. I did have one treasure hunt that somehow I ended up with two of, and I sold one, and it paid for quite a few Hot Wheels. My kids have all the leftovers. Yep. And we weren't, not initially into the same kind of cars. They liked all the like crazy, wacky, like custom fantasy Hot Wheels. And I was looking more for like die-cast versions of real cars. So Porsches, BMWs, whatever. So we were kind of looking at different things. So we were never like fighting over what we got to collect. Now that's not so much the case. They just turned 12 and now they're into the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, and they come and want to pick my collection. Here's another book, another old religious book, Commentary on the Holy Bible, Volume 4. Speaking of repeat buyers, the person who bought this just bought volume 2 of this collection from me last week. Bought it on discount. I sent out an offer. This sold for $14.99. I sent him an offer on the original one. He paid 15% less because that's what the offer went out at. Got it. It was exactly what he thought he was getting. It was in the condition that he thought he was getting it in. He ordered this one at full price. He didn't send an offer. He didn't watch it waiting for me to send an offer. He just bought it at full pop. So again, to go back to that point of earlier, taking care of your customer. I say all the time, customer service still matters. Doing those little extra things leads to stuff like this, where a guy who bought a book on sale a week ago came back and bought one at full price this week. So I hope that doesn't come across as too preachy, but those are the things that I think a lot of times there are sellers that don't. They think we're selling on eBay. That stuff doesn't matter. And I personally, having spent my entire career in business, particularly retail, I think that stuff does matter to buyers. As someone said earlier, I think about how I would want something to come. I think about how I am as a shopper and the things that would be important to me, and those things seem to translate. So and just one more here. I don't remember how much this one sold for. Another $7 book, $6.99 for The Pathology of Memory. This is from 1969, Academic Press, kind of a textbook, part of a big lot, 38 cents. I'm into this for $6.99. Again, not a huge sale, but fairly profitable. Even after the fees, I'll make a few dollars on this and have the potential to, in theory, earn a repeat buyer. And I will hop back into the chat one last time, and then we'll wrap this up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be available on Friday this week or not. I am still in the process of working on another special episode. I just haven't had time to finish that one up. So there will be some stuff coming, but I'm not sure I'll be live Friday. I will know more tomorrow. So let's hop back in here. Just started collecting Hot Wheels, trying to find Batman and Monster High. There you go. There are so many. It is, you can spend a fortune. Trust me, it can get really expensive for a $1 car, man. Some of them really bring a lot of money. Then the course has got about 100 Hot Wheels listed, 100 Matchbox, nothing rare, but they trickle out. When I bought a couple of lots at one point to get some stuff for the kids that was just kind of low price stuff that they could like ram into each other and whatever. There were some better ones in there that I did sell individually, but I have very few Hot Wheels left. I may still have a few, like some of the fast food places like McDonald's had a custom set of Hot Wheels and those did okay. So there's some unusual stuff out there that I will, if I find them, I'll come across and list. Had a ton of Batman Hot Wheels back in the day. Have a few listed. There you go, Mel. Find Den Decor Depot store. You can share, put your link or the name into your store in there so she can find it. Maybe she can come buy some of those Batman Hot Wheels. If anybody has anything else you would like to discuss, we'll give it another minute here. I'm going to move these over to the scale. I can get to work on these, which to be fair, we'll probably do after lunch. Yeah, drop that link. Yeah, let us know what your store is. Absolutely, always my pleasure. These are a little different. Normally on Wednesday, I'm not doing shipping, but I thought I didn't really have anything with the listing. I had done enough this morning, and I wasn't sure what time I was even going to be available this morning, so I wanted to just do some quick shipments and then get on the way, because I was supposed to go pick up the last lot of these books this afternoon, but we got them all done yesterday. So, like I said, it ended up being about 1,500 more than I anticipated, which was about right because there was an entire room that they hadn't sent me pictures of. So it was kind of in the ballpark. I was pretty close. I said it was going to be 4,000 with the extra room. It ended up being 5,500. So if you are a collector of old books, man, be on the lookout. Stuff dating back to the 1800s in that lot. So a lot of really interesting stuff. All right, that looks like it. Guys, thank you so much for coming out, spending a little bit of your Wednesday with me. Hopefully you got something out of this. If you did and you haven't already, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. I would appreciate it very much. A repeat buyer just made a buy. See, we manifest these things into existence. That's awesome. Those are the best. I just love repeat business. Because it's steady. You know they're following your store. You kind of know, you get to know like names. I recognize some usernames. Sometimes if I get something that I feel like I know a particular user will be interested in, I'll just send them a quick message. Hey, I'm about to list this book. I know you've bought these in the past. Is this something you'd be interested in? And kind of let them know in advance. So there's so much benefit to building those repeat buyers. It was true back in my actual retail days and holds true still today. So again, thank you guys so much for coming out and spending a little bit of time. I will let you know probably by tomorrow whether we're going to be here on Friday. And until then, it's time to sell. Thanks, guys.